He's a billionaire, the CEO of one of the most famous café chains in the city. But today, he's hiding behind a hoodie, blending in as just another customer. No one knows who he really is, not even the staff he built his empire with. And then, something happens. A simple act, just 3 words whispered by a tired waitress, stop him cold. 3 words that will change everything he thought he knew about his company and about kindness. Stay tuned, because what happens next will shock you. Sometimes, the richest hearts hide behind the simplest faces, and sometimes, 1 cup of coffee can change everything. The city was still waking up when Ethan Ward, the billionaire CEO of Brew Heaven Café, quietly stepped out of his mansion wearing a faded hoodie and an old baseball cap. His private driver looked confused when Ethan waved him off and walked alone toward a bus stop. No one, absolutely no one, would recognize him now. For years, Brew Heaven had been his dream. He'd started it in a tiny corner shop with 1 old espresso machine and a promise to his late mother. Every cup will be served with kindness. But somewhere between profit charts and expansion goals, that promise got lost. Recently, customer complaints started pouring in. Cold service, rude staff, careless management. Ethan couldn't believe it. The brand that once stood for warmth and humanity had turned mechanical, robotic. Something was wrong. So he made a decision few CEOs ever dared to make. He would go undercover. No cameras, no assistants, no press. Just him, Ethan Ward, the invisible boss pretending to be a regular customer. He wanted to see, feel, and taste what his customers experienced every day. When he entered one of his busiest Brew Heaven branches downtown, no one looked twice at him. The smell of freshly brewed coffee filled the air, mixed with the low hum of conversations and soft music. It looked perfect on the surface. But behind the counter, Ethan noticed something off. The energy felt wrong, forced smiles, tired faces, and tension in every movement. He scanned the staff until his eyes landed on a young woman with auburn hair tied in a messy bun and dark circles under her eyes. Her name tag read Lena. Despite her exhaustion, she smiled at every customer like it was her first of the day. When Ethan stepped up, she greeted him warmly. "Good morning. What can I get for you today?" "1 cappuccino, please," he replied. As she turned to make it, Ethan watched quietly. Her hands were steady, graceful, and full of care. She wasn't just making coffee. She was crafting comfort. He didn't know it yet, but this waitress, this ordinary girl, was about to change everything he thought he knew about kindness, success, and his own company. Lena moved like a quiet storm, graceful but unstoppable. Every few seconds, the bell above the cafe door jingled, and more customers poured in. Yet, it was always Lena who stepped forward first, greeting each one with that same tired but genuine smile. Ethan sat in a corner booth, pretending to scroll through his phone while secretly observing everything. He noticed how her co-workers avoided the hardest tasks, wiping tables, carrying trays, refilling supplies. All of it somehow ended up in Lena's hands. But she never complained, never sighed. She simply kept moving, as if kindness itself fueled her. When she finally brought Ethan his cappuccino, the smell of freshly frothed milk and roasted beans filled the air. "Here you go," she said softly, placing it down with care. Ethan smiled. "Thank you. You seem busier than everyone else." Lena chuckled lightly, brushing a stray hair from her face. "That's just how it goes. Some people work, some people talk." Her tone was polite, but her eyes betrayed something deeper, exhaustion mixed with quiet sadness. Ethan leaned forward, curiosity growing. "You've been working here long?" "Almost 2 years," she replied. "I love this place. Or at least, I used to." That answer hit him like a whisper of truth. "Used to?" He repeated. She looked around to make sure no one was listening, then lowered her voice. "It's different now. The new manager doesn't really care about people-only sales. If someone makes a small mistake, he yells. If we're tired, he says we're lazy. We used to feel like a family here, but now it's just work. Ethan's jaw tightened. He wanted to tell her right then, I'm the CEO. I built this place for people like you. But he stayed silent. He needed to see more, to hear more, to understand how deep the problem went. Lena gave a small, hopeful smile as she wiped the counter. Still, I try to stay positive. You never know who might walk through those doors, right? Ethan looked at her, realizing she had no idea who had just walked in. And in that moment, something in his heart stirred admiration, guilt, and a strange warmth he hadn't felt in years. Ethan sat quietly, sipping his cappuccino, his eyes never leaving Lena. Every movement she made seemed effortless, pouring coffee, arranging pastries, calming impatient customers, yet there was a subtle tension in the way she breathed, a fatigue in the way she moved. Then it happened, a small, almost unnoticed moment that would change everything. A little boy sitting at a nearby table dropped his muffin. It rolled across the floor, crumbs scattering everywhere. His eyes welled up with tears as he looked around, hoping someone would help. Lena didn't hesitate. She knelt beside him, gently picked up the muffin, and handed him a fresh one from the counter. Here, she whispered softly, brushing his hair from his forehead. Then, just barely audible, she said the words that would echo in Ethan's heart forever. Kindness never fails. The boy's tears disappeared, replaced by a shy, relieved smile. He hugged Lena tightly, whispering a quiet, "Thank you." Ethan froze. His hand shook slightly as he set his cup down. Those 3 words, kindness never fails, were the very same words his mother had told him as a child. The mantra that had inspired him to start Brew Heaven Café in the first place. And here, coming from a tired young waitress, those words carried the same weight, the same magic. But then he looked closer. Lena's co-workers barely noticed, moving past the moment as if it were nothing. And the manager, Tom, had been watching from across the room, frowning in annoyance. He didn't see the miracle of that moment. The hope, the comfort, the humanity in an ordinary act. Ethan realized something chilling. Brew Heaven had lost its soul, not because of the coffee, not because of the decor, but because the people who were meant to protect kindness had forgotten it existed. He wanted to stand up, reveal himself, and tell Lena, I built this company for people like you. You are the heart of it. But he didn't. He stayed hidden, letting the moment sink in, letting the reality of his company's failures hit him. Yet in that small act, in those 3 words whispered to a crying child, Ethan saw something he hadn't seen in years: hope. Real hope. And he knew, without a doubt, that this moment would change everything, if he had the courage to act. The next morning, the cafe buzzed with nervous energy. Rumors had spread that the CEO of Brew Heaven would be visiting. Staff scurried around, straightening chairs, wiping counters, and plastering forced smiles across their faces. Even the regular customers noticed the tension, whispering about the unexpected visit. Ethan walked in quietly. No hoodie this time. His suit was crisp, his presence commanding, but calm. The moment he stepped through the door, a wave of realization hit the staff. This was him. The real Ethan Ward, the man whose face adorned billboards, whose name represented a multi-million-dollar empire, was standing in their Café Tom. The manager rushed over, his panic barely concealed. "Sir, I didn't expect you today." Ethan cut him off with a raised hand and a sharp glance. "Don't pretend. I already know everything." The cafe fell silent. All eyes turned to Lena, who froze for a moment, her heart racing. She had no idea that the man she'd served yesterday was the very owner of the company she worked for. Ethan's gaze met hers. "Lena," he said softly, yet with authority, "would you come here, please?" He walked forward hesitantly, unsure what to expect. Ethan smiled, not the polite CEO smile for the cameras, but a genuine, warm smile. Yesterday, I saw something remarkable. You told a crying child 3 words. Kindness never fails. Her eyes widened. I was trying to help him, she stammered. You did more than help him, Ethan continued. You reminded me why I started Brew Heaven. Not for money, not for fame, but for moments like that. For people like you who keep kindness alive, even when the world forgets it, exists. The staff watched in stunned silence. Tom shifted nervously, his confidence faltering. Sir, he began, but Ethan's eyes didn't waver. This cafe has lost its soul, Ethan said, voice steady but filled with emotion. And it's time to fix that. Tom, your management style is no longer welcome here. You're relieved of your duties, effective immediately. The room gasped. Tom tried to protest, but Ethan didn't give him a chance. Instead, he turned back to Lena, placing a hand on her shoulder. From now on, you will lead this cafe. Not with fear, not with pressure, but with the kindness you've shown every single day. Tears filled Lena's eyes, a mix of shock, gratitude, and disbelief. The rest of the staff exchanged glances, hope flickering where once there had been tension. For the first time in months, the cafe felt alive. Ethan smiled, a quiet satisfaction settling in his chest. He had seen the problem, witnessed the heart of his company in action, and now, finally, he could start the change he had promised to bring. Week later, Ethan returned to the cafe, but this time, everything felt different. The air was lighter, filled with laughter, and the comforting aroma of freshly brewed coffee. It was as if a weight had been lifted, not just from the walls, but from the hearts of everyone who worked there. Lena stood behind the counter, but she wasn't the overworked, exhausted waitress Ethan had met before. She was smiling, confident, and radiant, a true leader. Customers were greeted warmly, orders moved smoothly, and the staff worked together like a team that actually enjoyed being there. Ethan approached the counter. Lena looked up, recognition dawning, and her smile widened. You're back, she said softly. I wanted to see how things are going, Ethan replied, his tone calm but full of pride. And I have to say, you've done an incredible job. Lena shook her head, blushing slightly. I didn't do it alone, I just tried to remind people what this place is really about. Ethan nodded. That's exactly it. You reminded me, and that's why you're the heart of this cafe now. For the first time, Ethan felt that warm, quiet satisfaction that comes from seeing real change happen, the kind money alone could never buy. He ordered a cappuccino, the same way he had on that fateful day, and Lena handed it to him with care, just as she always did. But this time, there was something new. As Ethan lifted the cup, he noticed a small, handwritten note beneath it. It read, "For believing in kindness." Thank you, Lena. Ethan smiled, feeling a lump in his throat. The simple gesture captured everything he had hoped his company would stand for: kindness, care, and the power of small, meaningful actions. He sipped the coffee, savoring the taste. It was perfect. Not because of the beans, not because of the machine, but because it was made with heart. Before leaving, Ethan glanced around the cafe, noticing a small new sign near the counter, "Kindness never fails." It had become more than a motto. It was a promise, a guiding principle that would shape every Brew Heaven cafe from that day forward. And as he walked out into the bustling city streets, Ethan knew one truth above all. Success isn't measured by wealth or power, but by the lives we touch and the kindness we give. From that day on, Brew Heaven wasn't just a cafe. It was a reminder that even in a world consumed by hustle, stress, and ambition, there is always room for compassion, care, and the belief that kindness never fails.